Hello. I'm so glad to see you all in the audience. Still a huge crowd right at the end of the day, which obviously shows how good the content was, right? Yeah. It's really a pleasure to have you all here, and I'm super excited to welcome this panel. Before I introduce who we have on stage today, I just want you to stop for a moment and think. How do you discover your music? So is it on the radio? Is it clicking through Spotify and trying to find the next album? Is it through curated playlists? Well, where do you find that? I know quite a lot of you, we're in advertising, right? We're in media space. A lot of you probably out late at night on Saturdays, 6 a.m. in the morning, still listening to DJs in London, right? Where are you finding your music? Is it at those parties? I don't know. Well, one way to discover music in a new way is Kiki, and I'm really excited to welcome our panelists today. So I've got with me Crystal Eisinger, who's CEO of Kiki. We've got Tim Garcia, right at the end there, who's the founder of Música Macondo Records and a prominent DJ, and Tom Whiter, head of content for Kiki as well, so thank you and welcome. I think we've got a slide at the back, so it'd be great to put the first slide on, please. Crystal, can you just give me a bit of an overview of what Kiki is?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, hi everyone. Thanks so much for having us today. Hopefully the quest for discovery will leave you feeling energized as you go and discover a local place to find a good beverage. But really what we are is we are all about discovery, and our promise is to help you discover music like never before. We are a free new streaming app service for DJ mixes and radio shows. And as you can see up here, we're a very design-led platform. We handpick the very best of global music through our curators like Tim, and we have a selection and breadth of genres that really are aimed to push the boundaries of your listening. And you know, the thing that's Kiki's special sauce is we combine human curation, so everything on our platform is handpicked by an expert in their genre, people like Tim. And we also combine that with our own lateral discovery algorithm. So I'm sure Tom will give you some examples of how the way that we help people discover music is very different to what you'll experience elsewhere. So that's what we're all about.
Great, and I think we've got another slide, please. Can you just describe a bit about who the audience for this is? Is it that, you know, is it the person out in seeing a gig, you know, 3 a.m. listening to a DJ, doesn't know what it is, don't want to stand there trying to figure out what the song is through Shazam or something like that? Who is this audience for?
Yeah, I mean, I would love to give you a precise demographic breakdown, an attitudinal kind of you know, profile of our audience, but we're new and we're still learning who that is. But what I can tell you so far is that the people that we have the most resonance with are people who love music, who define music as a big part of their identity. And the way that we see ourselves positioned in the market overall is we're seeing that users across media, news, social, are trying to escape the echo chambers that they're in, right? People are increasingly skeptical about being fed the same thing over and over again. So we see Kiki as a way to help them break out of their listening echo chambers and become the most interesting person at the party, because they can say, oh, have you heard this new mix, or you heard this new genre, and have their identity enriched by that further. The other key ways that we see ourselves as positioned is, you know, what we've seen is there are specialist communities who are congregating on the internet in different places and willing to pay for that niche content. You see Crunchyroll with anime, subreddits, for example. And so we know that there are these niches, especially within the music community, that are quite disparate right now and not having the best listening experience. And so what we do is bring that together and combine it to be one big audience. That's what we're doing, with an amazing user experience and look and feel. The other thing particularly prevalent over COVID was that, you know, the idea that artists should just give out their content for free, and the quest of being famous one day was not acceptable anymore. And so you see that with, you know, Patreon, OnlyFans, Twitch. Trickle income for artists is something that, you know, there's the supply side where we believe that we should be supporting artists, supporting that ecosystem, creating a way for DJs to make money outside of gigs, which currently is difficult for them to do, and giving users this amazing discovery experience. So that's where we sit. That's where we sit at the moment.
Great. Tom, tell me a bit more about that discovery element that Crystal mentions. Why is that so important to what you're doing at Kiki?
Yeah, of course. I think firstly, Chris was there talking about curation as a service as well, is worth mentioning. I think as the barriers for entry to music have come down and anyone can make anything they want in their bedroom on a small laptop without a really expensive load of instruments and a studio to hire, we've seen the amount of music being made go through the roof. And so it's so difficult to wade through all of that. What are you left to do? I think we are already relying on platforms like Medium and Netflix to sort through those things for us. And that's where our team of curators come in. Because it's an invite-only platform, we are able to whittle down the choices from, instead of everything in the entire world, to these are all the things that are worth listening to. And so that's where the human element is really important to us, because we can't pretend that we know every single artist or genre or newly emerging scene. We have to rely on the experts ourselves. So that's where our curators come in. We've got them based all around the world, from Tokyo to Barcelona to Beirut, to LA, and they're the people who, in their day jobs, are music programming other interesting platforms like Boiler Room or Color Studios in Berlin, and they know what's going on. So we can say to them, who do you think is worth putting on the platform? And so they are working freelance for us, bringing us interesting stories and putting them in a space where they can all live together and be a sort of interesting capsule for someone to discover. And then the algorithm comes in after that. So interestingly, I think if you are one of those people trying to flee an echo chamber that Chris was talking about, maybe you're a hip-hop fan and you're listening on Spotify and you're enjoying Tupac, it'll then say, oh, well, have you heard of NWA? And you're saying, well, yeah, of course I have, because those are two of the biggest rap artists in the history or groups. And that doesn't allow you to discover anything new. What our algorithm is doing differently is it's finding connections and touch points between different musical genres to help people break out of those silos. So if you're that same hip-hop listener and you've listened to a load of boom bap all week, and it's Sunday morning and it's raining and the weather's a bit miserable, you want something a bit different. So our platform will push you some beats and lo-fi content. It's the same BPM, it's made with the same instrumentation, it hasn't got the lyrics, and it's from artists that you'll have never heard before. And it opens up this whole world that suits your mood. It's not something you'd have picked out or known to search for yourself. But the moment it comes on, you'll think, oh yeah, I quite like this actually, I didn't know about that. So another example of that is I'm really into techno. If my voice is a bit hoarse, it's because I've just got back from Glastonbury, dancing in that tent till 3 a.m. Kiki, for me, recommended me Amapiano. I would have never known about this South African genre and all its roots from lots of different genres that I wouldn't have discovered before. But it goes, that instrumentation is a bit more organic, but it sounds the same. It's the same BPM. You can match those two up. And I've suddenly now got a whole South African catalogue to start wading through and finding new artists.
I think that's really exciting. So it's not just, you're into techno, so suddenly you're listening to, have a recommendation for tech house. It's more complex than that.
That's it, yeah.
Okay, brilliant.
I think we envisage celebrating the distance that people travel on the platform rather than celebrating them listening at the end of the year to 7,000 hours of the same thing. We want to reward them for moving out further away, so starting in lo-fi but ending up in jazz.
Right,
and we see that as a kind of a better thing to celebrate than going in deeper to a genre. Although you can do that, of course, and we have lots of subgenres within it, but we really prioritise discovery. We want to challenge and help our users grow.
And you get that data on the app. I know you've been building a lot around the tech recently and the data you get, but you can see those journeys from, say, techno to jazz over to Tim's mixes.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's just the start for us. We are a streaming platform now, but our vision of where we want to go is a lot more sort of in common with gaming and online, and almost like a pick your own adventure. Discovering new music is quite scary. I come from a background, I worked for BBC Radio 1 for 10 years, and the way we had to really sugar the pill of playing new music to people so it doesn't scare them into switching channels or moving to something they want. What if you could turn that scared feeling into actually something that you put in people's hands and you say, this is exciting to discover for yourself? What if you listened to this largest amount of this particular genre or artist, and therefore it put you in the top 1%, and that unlocked more content for you to discover, and you got it first because you were the most ardent? And then if you can go to the artist and say, I can tell you who your top 1% of fans are, and more than that, I can tell you how long they've listened for, what sort of prize do you want to give them for getting there? And so that opens up loads of new avenues for us as well. It's really interesting.
I see. And tell me a bit about why you chose Tim to join you on the platform as well?
I could not choose Tim. It was brilliant. There's nothing better than a feeling in an interview where a previous candidate, when you've asked them, oh, who do you listen to, who do you recommend?
Yeah.
Recommends the person you're going to speak to next. So to then have Tim come out, I said, oh, we know about you. And he said, really? And I said, yeah, the last person who interviewed recommended you. He said he'd put you on this platform as an artist. So we're really excited to find out more about his record label. I know he sort of can run the full gamut between Latin and jazz. And so it's really interesting speaking to him because I learn something new every time. I find out a new artist. I can go away. I can ask him any question I want. Even I can go more educational if I want because you are doing a master's in ethnomusicology. And so there's just, I can just never get bored talking to Tim.
Funnily enough, Tim seems to come up in conversation a lot because I have some friends who are going to a party at Night Tales on Saturday night, and Tim, you're curating that, right?
Yes, I was, yeah.
Yeah, so, and you're also playing We Out Here Festival in summer and a few other festivals.
Yeah, I curated a stage at Love Supreme, which is this weekend, so we're doing a stage there. Just been at Meadows in the Mountains in Bulgaria as well, and I've got a few other events coming up too.
Wicked. And can you tell us a little bit more about why you were drawn to joining Kiki, and also just about how are you selecting your tunes? Why is curation important to you?
How am I selecting my shots? So loads of different places. So I kind of go between analog and digital. I'm still quite old school in that sense. I like going to a record store. I like the physicality of finding records, talking to people in the store and that sort of thing. I also use Bandcamp, which is the way I buy my music, and I get sent a lot of promos as well. So, yeah. In terms of choosing Kiki, it's the platform that puts discovery first, and for me that's really important. I'm reading a book right now by a producer called Quincy Jones, who you may have heard of, and he talks about his experience of composing and producing music, likening it to that of a chef. And I guess you could use the same analogy for discovery and why discovery is important. It's sort of increasing your palette. It's like causes you to become more creative, to have more ideas, to I guess to grow more as well. If you're putting yourself in different experiences, so that's why I like what they're doing and putting forward.
You don't have to have a qualification in curating music, but you are doing a master's. Can you tell us just a little bit more about what that insight gives you?
I guess the MA is in ethnomusicology at SOAS, and it's essentially the anthropological study of music. So I guess it gives you insights into different cultures and where they're coming from musically and what role their music plays within their society. And I think that's quite important when we're talking about linking and connecting the dots between different musics, in a global space.
It's about, I notice on the Kiki app, when you're looking at the different curated mixes that you can read, there's a bit of a description underneath, and it gives you the story of why you're listening. And by the way, I'd really recommend downloading it on your phone and listening on the tube home or the train home, particularly obviously to Tim's mixes, yeah. But I really love that story you get when you go on and you experience for playlisters. Tim, just one final question before I come in, Crystal. I'd like to ask you a little bit more about what you're doing in the future with Kiki. But other than Bandcamp and maybe SoundCloud, was there a way for you to really share mixes, or for the DJs to share mixes like this, other than going and playing live? Do you see this as another creative outlet for sharing mixes?
Definitely. I mean, I think with the danger of platforms like SoundCloud and Mixcloud is anyone and everyone can join, so it's really hard to actually find stuff that you may want to listen to. You have to really sift through a lot of things, so that's why I like this sort of human element with the algorithm on the other end of it. So you kind of, if I listen to like Jay Dilla, a hip-hop producer who samples a lot of Brazilian music, I'm also going to get recommended Brazilian music off the back of that, and I think that's a nice way to go about things, whereas you don't get that functionality with Mixcloud. There is a recommend function on SoundCloud, but they also deal with just tracks as well, so it's not like a long-form listening experience as such, or out-and-out long-form listening experience.
Okay, that's really helpful. Thank you. And I think we've got another slide which I'd love to show on Square Argentine. Crystal, I'm just going to come back to you now and just ask, what? Obviously, this is a startup. It's just beginning. I think the last couple of years, right? Can you just tell us about what you're doing? There's a lot of development and growth I'm seeing at the moment through your weekly updates on email, right? Tell us a little bit about what you're developing and growing at Kiki and what your plans are, especially for the next year or two.
Yeah, happy to. I think if we skip one slide forward, I'm happy to share that. I think the other thing, just to build on what Tim said, is we also think about that triangle of artists, creators, and advertisers, and being and you can go one slide ahead, sorry. And the invite-only component is really important to us, because for our artists, when we go out and say, invite them onto, people like Tim, invite the artists onto the platform, we can say it's an invite-only. You're in good company here. You're not going to be lost among lots of low-quality content, right? That's really important for artists to feel like they're in good company and see themselves among that. From a user experience, we want to make sure that they're having like a consistently high-quality experience, right? Like a discovery experience that they couldn't achieve by themselves, because they're essentially being guided by experts in their genre, like people like Tim. And then finally, from an advertiser perspective, right, what we can say is everything on our platform is there's no way for there's no user-generated content as it was. Everything has to be invited through a curator, and that allows us to guarantee a level of safety and quality, which is really important from an advertising perspective when we launch our ads stuff next year. In terms of key milestones, you asked, yes, it is busy in the world of startup. And thank you, I'm glad somebody reads our weekly emails. In terms of where we are at the moment, we're at 54,000 monthly active users. We've grown that significantly since Q1, mainly through, there are two key acquisition channels. One is performance marketing, obviously, and we're getting increasingly sophisticated at that as we find out which audiences, which users absolutely love our product. And the other really important component is getting our shows to share, right? We really want to be there's two sides of our platform. There's a supply side, which is the artists and their content, and we've invested a lot of time and money actually over the last 5 years on making sure that our artist area called Dash gives them really good insights to help inform their touring and promotion strategy and what people are responding to. We'll be adding in more functionality, like for people to be able to buy tickets. One thing that we have that other platforms don't is everything on the platform, we have mandatory track listing, so it's when you're listening to something, you will know what that is, and that's really important for us to fulfill our promise of discovery. Whereas, there are other platforms that you might listen to where a song is included in a mix, but it's not, you don't know what that is. That's really important for us. Right. The other thing that we're really encouraged by, again, at this relatively early stage, is the average stream time on iOS is currently, just under 25 minutes. I think long-form audio, high dwell time, long sets is an area that we want to really own in terms of that space, and we see people, we see people listening to those sets whilst they're working, whilst they're studying, before dinner. Like, there are these key use cases where we can see that Kiki is like really becoming part of people's lives, and ultimately that's what we're trying to get to now, which is product market fit. But that average stream time is really encouraging for us because it shows that people are staying and listening and engaging, but also, as I said, when we start working with brands, we think that's a really positive story to tell, that people are staying and that they're engaged. So we're continuing to push app users towards app, and that's going to be our focus over the next few weeks and months, as well as pushing out new features like moods, being more editorialized. That's all on our roadmap at the moment. Wow. But the longer term plan is, launch ads next year and then a subscription offering the year after that. But in the meantime, just try to grow our user base as quickly as possible and get to product market fit.
I'm looking forward to hearing next year at the conference and how the progress with the ads is going. Of course, as a media event, it'll be great to hear about that. Just quickly before we go, favourite show on Kiki? Tim, obviously you're not allowed to say your own.
Probably Mr. Bongo Record Club. They're a label down in Brighton. They deal in a lot of Latin, Brazilian music, African music.
Brilliant.
There's one that's just launched called Jams with J-Wax by a producer who's based up in Edinburgh. there's loads of really interesting club music in it, from sort of ambient to break beats, and it's sort of like dance music, but you can listen to it in the day while you're working. It's really nice.
Right.
Oh, this is such a difficult one because I listen to different shows for different parts of my day. I'm sorry, I have to go with two. One is called The Antidote by Annabelle, which is kind of slightly cheesy. Sorry, Tom, who won't approve of this. But gets me, it's like a great mixes to listen to before you go out. Really gets me like ready to go out. I'm very excited about that. But then during the day, there's a show which is like Polynesian show that has like really like great Moana vibes, which I also love when I want to channel my inner Moana. So yeah, I love that, and the Love Below Hour. I mean, have an explore. I'm, unlike Tom, probably a very mainstream music listener, but now I exclusively listen to Kiki because I love being able to say that I'm listening to, you know, Polynesian sounds. It's amazing and interesting. Has taken me on a whole discovery journey. So yeah, check out The Antidote or the Love Below Hour, or any of the other two that have been suggested. Find your own favourite show. What's yours?
I actually love that Amelie Lens show. That is like, you know, a bit of hard techno to get you going, you know, in the mornings. So just before work, it's what I'm sat with my earphones in while Steve's trying to talk to me and tell me to do my job better. So yeah, Amelie Lens, XL Radio, hard techno, perfect for working too.
You guys are friends. Need to be friends.
Well, it's been an absolute pleasure to be talking to you all. Thanks again for coming down, and a huge round of applause for our panelists.